Hello and welcome. In this video we are going to go through the Ultimate Vehicle Service and Inspection Report. So at the screen here I have an upload of a form that I filled out. So this is the black and white version and it is the long version. So it has the checklist as well as all the information to fill out for a service. So at the top we've got the make, model, series, the engine code. Obviously you can put your VIN number in there. The transmission, it's an auto CVT. So the model year is the model year of the vehicle, and which is often different to the production date. So the model year is often called MY19 or similar. Obviously registration plate, all these things are pretty self-explanatory. Odometer, service date. Now the service required is what actual service is due for this car, and the service completed may be something different. So if you are just doing an oil service and you're not doing the main book service, then obviously you'd be entering that in different. Now here is the important stuff, the fluids and oil specifications. So I could possibly do another video explaining all specifications, but this is the most important. Now the oil viscosity is one thing, however the oil specifications and approvals are the most important. So looking in the owner's manual of my car, the oil specifications required for this car is API 5N or ACEA A3 or A5. Or ILSAC, it's actually ILSAC 5. So the oil I've actually used was Liqui Moly Molygen, and they have the approvals that are actually higher than these specifications here. Brake fluid, the requirement is this VMVS number 16, and we'll be using a .4. And differential oil front and rear is required. That's required is an API GL5 and the viscosity 75W90. So all these things you can enter yourself, but it's most important to research these before you go ahead and buy any oil. There's probably a dozen different versions of 5W30. However, there's only going to be a few with the specifications, which is basically the ingredients of the oil. So thickness is one thing, but ingredients is another. Now, moving on to the job notes, here's just an area where you can list everything that you've done. So we've done an oil service, changed the oil and filter, we've done an oil flush, we've used the upper engine cleaner, we've put a fuel additive in, pressure flushed the brake fluid, we've changed the diff oils. Under vehicle inspection, here's a couple of things that we've noted during the service, and then we've rotated the wheels and tires, we've replaced the wipers, and we've done a wheel alignment and adjusted the tire pressures. Now once you've finished, here's a great checklist just to make sure that you've been able to you can look back and see, oh, actually did I forget to do this or have I done it. So service book completed, have you filled out the service sticker, have you reset the service reminder on the car, did you rotate the wheels, have you torqued them, does it have a lock nut? Obviously my car doesn't have a lock nut, it's just got some 19mm bolts. Sump plug, was that torqued? Did you road test the car, and have you checked the levels afterwards? Now on to the inspection report. Up the top here we just have a basic legend of what things are and what they should be. So on the everything on this area is what it should be. So tire depth should be 4mm or higher. Wheel rims are okay. If the wheel rims are okay, then you're right okay. Brake pads are anywhere from 6mm above. And the disc minimum thickness, you want at least 1mm over the minimum. If it's only 0.5mm over the minimum, then it might need some replacing in the future. If it's on the minimum or under, obviously those discs are no good and they need to be replaced. Same with the brake pads. If they're 3 to 6, they're okay, but might not last very long. 0 to 3mm, they're going to be no good and going to be needing to be replaced. Now don't forget, with brake pads, you've only got between 0 and 3mm of actual glue holding the pads on, so there is not always the amount of pad that you think you have left. Now, if your wheel rims are scratched, you'd put a 0 or an O. If they're buckled, you'd put an X. So on my vehicle inspection, here's what I found. The front left wheel and tyre, the pressures were a bit low. They were on 30. I pumped them up to 36. The tread depth was 2 millimeters on the minimum, at the minimum of the tread. So that needs attention, and they're wearing on the inside. The wheel rim's okay. Brake pads are borderline. They've got about 6 millimeters left, so they're sort of okay. The brake discs are 29.2 and the minimum's 28, so there's plenty left, and same on this side. Onto the rear, again the pressures were a bit low, we pumped them up. The tire tread depth, obviously didn't write that, but it was okay. Wear pattern good, wheel rims good, brake pads were 8 millimeters, so plenty there, and the brake disc 16.4 when the minimum is 15, so all right there. Now the tyres here, you can write your tyre sizes, the brand, the model, the date made. Now you'll find 4 digits here somewhere on the tyre. This 2618 indicates that the tyres were made on the 26th week of 2018, which according to today's date is approximately 6 years old. So that gives you a good idea, so that whenever you go back, this is a great sheet for record keeping. Now the spare, pressures were a bit low, pumped them up to 38. New tread and wear pattern, same tyres, same age, and I crossed out the whole thing, but really I just wanted to cross out the lock nut because it didn't have that. However, the wheel jack and the toolkit was okay. Now battery. The battery on this car is an EFB, and the type of the battery code is a Q85R. The battery was okay, but needed a bit of a charge. That's why there's the circle there. And it was a 620 CCA with a 70 amp hour rating, and it was 1 year old. The voltage was 12.3 statically, and then while the car's running, it's 14.4, so that's all good. Now, here comes to the checklist. Now, this checklist is great if you're going to look at a car to purchase or you're doing a service. It's just a great indicator of what is needed to be checked. Now, add blue lines and pumps. My car's not a diesel, it doesn't have an add blue line, I've crossed it out. The air filter box and piping, they're all okay. Alternator, that was alright. Belts, tensioners and pulleys, okay. Engine mounts, engine power and torque. The engine starting, hot or cold, 2 different things. The exhaust system, does it blow any smoke? Are there any noises? Is the fuel filter okay? Is that due for replacement? Is the pump noisy? Are the lines leaking? Are the fuel injectors noisy? Do they vibrate? If you put your hand on them, does one vibrate more than the other? That's one way of indicating or diagnosing. The fuel tank, is that alright? Is the cap okay? Is the vent system okay? Is the idle speed a bit high or low? Is it rough running? Does the car have ignition leads or a distributor? Are the plugs or coils due? The intake system, if you can see inside there, is it carboned up or is it oily? If it has an intercooler, are the pipes okay? Are there any leaks? If you boost the car, can you hear any boost leaks? Or are there any visible damage? Is there any visible damage to the intercooler? Is there any noise or vibration or smell coming from the engine? Now the oil cap or the level leaks. Are there any oil leaks? I've put an O here because the oil level was a little bit low beforehand. Now if you open the oil cap, can you see any oil sludge? Does the oil condition look alright, or does it smell very burnt? Power steering. I've put a tick there, but my car actually has electric steering, so that's not applicable. The PCV system, very important on cars, particularly European cars. Positive crankcase ventilation system. While the engine's running, does it make a whistling sound? If you were to try to open the cap, is there a lot of suction? Are you unable to lift the cap off while the engine's running? You should be able to. If there's a lot of suction, then it's indicated that the PCV system is failing. The throttle body or cable, if you've got them, are they okay? My car doesn't have a turbo or a supercharger, so you'd be listening for any noises or feeling if it's got adequate boost. Does it have vacuum lines? And are the vacuum canisters okay? Clutch level, condition, does that look dirty or brown? The master cylinder, does that look alright on the lines, or the slave cylinder if you can see it? Clutch operation, now that includes the pedal where the car's not moving, as well as the operation of the clutch engaging and disengaging while the car is moving. Here we go onto the air conditioning. If you've got a temperature gauge, you can put that in the air vent. A really good air temperature is anywhere from 5 to 9 degrees. This one's 7.5. The AC compressor, are there any noises? Does that seem okay? The condenser is usually behind the radiator, in front of the radiator, sorry. Is that okay? The AC evaporator, that's in the heater box area behind the dash. AC lines, can you see any yellow UV staining anywhere? Does it feel cold? Is it cold from one side to the other? Are there any smells or vibrations? The cabin filter, is that okay? That's usually behind the glove box, but can also be in the engine bay. I put a 0 here because it was a bit dusty and there was a couple of leaves on there, so that would need to be replaced soon. Onto your cooling system. Your coolant cap, bleed screws if it has any, are they alright? Often they're plastic and they can break. Your coolant concentration, you'll be testing that with a coolant concentration gauge. Your expansion tank or overflow bottle, is that okay? Coolant level and leaks, I've put an O because the level was a little bit low in the overflow tank, expansion tank. The radiator hoses, are they alright? Water pump, thermostat, the temperature. Now, a lot of new cars don't have a engine temperature gauge, but if yours does, is it in the correct position when it's warm, or is it low while you're driving? Does the temperature go up when you're sitting? These are all indicators of the engine operation temperature. Control arms and joints, they are right. Shockers, springs and mounts. Now I've put an O here there because I noticed there was a little bit of oil around the top of the shockers, so the shockers are very lightly leaking there. Suspension bushes, there was a little bit of play there, but nothing too major, they weren't split. Suspension noise or vibrations, they were okay. Sway bars, links and mounts. The wheel alignment, the wheels, the tyres were wearing a little bit on the inside on the front, so that's why we did that. Needs a wheel alignment, not majorly, but I would recommend a wheel alignment. Wheel bearing noise, does it have any play? Are they noisy? Brakes, the brake level condition, that was all okay. The brake pedal booster, that was okay. Brake operation, disc wear, pads even wear, yes, they were even. They were a little bit low, but they were even. Our parking brakes, got an electric parking brake, but that was all okay. Moving on to the drive line. The drive shafts, are they noisy? Were the boots split? Is there any noise or vibration coming from the drive line while the car's driving? The front diff, is the front diff leaking? Are the mounts okay? How are the gear changes while you're driving? The rear diff, is there any mounts or split or leaks on the rear diff? The tail shaft couplings, joints, are they alright? Sometimes the center mount often splits. Now transfer gear. Now that could be a transfer case, as in a proper forward drive, or it can be a transfer gear like on a European Porsche SUV, where it's got more like a clutch, a slipping clutch as a transfer gear rather than a full-on 4x4 transfer gear. Transmission, is that alright? Are there any leaks? Are the mounts okay? Now onto these extras. The 12-volt sockets, are they okay, or are they blown? It could be a fuse. ADAS systems, autonomous driving assistance systems. Very important. Most new cars have these systems everywhere. You generally have a front radar behind the front badge. You'll have a camera in at the top of the windscreen, and you may have some front cross traffic radars in the front corners of the bumper, and most probably 2 rear corner radars in behind the rear bumper to identify cars overtaking you, and they are the radars that recognize vehicles and light up the little light in your side mirror when someone is trying to overtake you in your blind spot. Now, any accidents after any accidents, these systems need to be recalibrated because they could be in the wrong position or they could be moved. They're very delicate. They can cause a lot of issues. So are those systems okay? You want to test drive them and make sure the warnings are coming on. If you go over the line without indicating, you want to make sure that the autonomous braking is giving you an alert, or the distance control for your automatic cruise control is keeping you at a safe distance. And if the car has the function, you want to make sure that it's stopping on its own accord. Bonnet struts and tailgate struts, are they holding up on themselves? Are there any dash warnings on? Are there any fault codes if you scan the car? Is the heater or the interior fan okay? Is it noisy? There could be some leaves in there. Is the horn sound normal? European cars generally have a high and a low tone. Most Asian cars just have one tone. Exterior lights. Now that's your high beam, your low beam, your fog light, your cornering lights, everything. Parking light, brake lights, reverse lights. Interior lights, are they all okay? Your seat belts and buckles, are they clipping in properly? Are they retracting easily, or do they need some lubrication? Are they frayed? Do they look safe? Are they holding on okay? Now sunroof, is that operating smoothly or is it noisy and clunky? If you've got a convertible top, is the pump very noisy? If it's got a hydraulic pump, does it seem to be working quickly or is it stuttering or going slow? The washer bottle pump, washer jets, are they all okay? Windscreen wipers I put across here because the wiper rubbers were streaking and they needed to be replaced. And your windows, whether they're automatic, electric or wind up, are they okay? So that really is a good overview of what you need to be checking on the car. Based on the answers of these checks, you can then go forward and work out what you need to do. But this really is an excellent checklist for anyone, whether you're a professional or a do-it-yourselfer. The professionals generally would just be using this front page and the inspection report because it's a great record keeper. The checklist is really good for anyone who just wants to make sure that they're checking everything on the car when they're servicing it themselves. Hopefully this has been a good explanation for you. If you've got any questions, then just write them down in the comments. There will be a QR code in this little window here so that you can find this video if you've got the checklist yourself, or obviously if you found this video and you don't have the checklist, there'll be a link in the description of where you can get the checklist. Hopefully this has been of good value to you. Again, if you've got any questions, just ask them. Otherwise, good luck with your servicing and checking.